what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. As always, I am the major host here, the Dharma Guy, and the co-host as he's chomping down on his thing there. What's up? That's the Dope Doctor. What's going on, man?
How you doing? So Marissa said go with the Nature Valley, so I went
That's the
with
one
the
you went
Nature
with.
Valley.
So for those of you who are not watching us currently and you're listening to the podcast, potentially at another date, which you're not watching here, is Louis chomping down on his was that Nature Valley granola bar there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So, anyways, first and foremost, welcome everybody. Hope you guys are having a good week. If you're living in Florida, you're probably aware that our COVID-19 cases have skyrocketed this week. I think last I checked, we were number one in the nation with new cases, which is
Woo-hoo.
crazy, right? Number one, woohoo!
Let's go.
Um,
Let's go Florida.
if you're gonna do it right, man.
Hell yeah.
But anyways, so I figured today we're gonna kind of talk about fatherhood and fathers, things of that nature. We just had Father's Day, obviously, on what was it, Sunday, I believe. How was your Father's Day, man? Did you feel appreciated?
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys went out like canoeing or something, right? Or you went to the beach, I think.
Yeah. That was more like in between our anniversary and it lands in the same. Our anniversary and Father's Day lands around the same time.
Right.
So Dana and I just spent some time at the dog beach. You know, the new puppy. We're training it to be around. You know, socializing it
Right.
with other dogs at dog parks, and then went to the dog beach because we got two different dog beaches right here close by. So I went to one then the other. But man, Father's Day is amazing, man. I love it because it's that one time where when I talk the smack that I talk to the daughters, like they all deal with it and they all take it.
Right.
It was pretty cool, man, because usually they talk smack back,
Yeah.
but not on Father's Day. So I loved it.
Right on. Yeah, my Father's Day was actually was pretty good. You know, I'm not really huge on the holidays and stuff. Like I don't. It's not something I stress out about. Only thing that I guess I really bottom line need is just for them at least to acknowledge it. That's about it.
Mm.
I don't need like special meals made. I don't need to make a big deal about it. I mean, it's cool. It's appreciated if they do it. But my bar, I guess, is set pretty low. I just need them to at least take a time out
Why?
of the day. I'm sorry.
Why you have such a low bar? I mean, what,
Because
I mean,
for me
what about a
personally,
want? What do you want?
um,
What do you want on Father's Day?
I just acknowledgement, man. That's all. Like,
How
because
about
I
what is
feel
that?
loved by him anyways throughout the year. Like, I don't really feel like I'm underappreciated, anyways. So it's not like I need that day. I feel like just on a regular day, they kind of appreciate what I bring to the table. I think some days more than others, and my daughter is watching at the moment, so I'm sure she has some days where she appreciates my presence more than others. But overall, I think all I really require is just an acknowledgement, man. Just to take a minute out to say, hey, happy Father's Day.
My daughter's ever watched this? Hell no. I have no need, but I have a want, and
Sure.
and I think that's what's beautiful about Christmas, birthdays,
Right.
and Father's Day. That's the day where I'm allowed to express my wants, and I would appreciate that I get one. And
Sure.
it's never anything material. I just want them to be around. I just want to have fun with them.
Right.
Um, Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I'm simple.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was at. It's just acknowledgement, man. Just because my little ones weren't here; they were at their mom's house, but they both called me and said it. And Skylar was actually up in Tennessee visiting family at the moment,
I know.
but she left a card here for me, and she made sure she sent me a text. Things of that nature is just nice, just effort, I guess, really, just some acknowledgement to show that it does mean something to them.
Yeah.
But anyways, so.
Or they could be doing it out of obligation. It could mean
It could
jack.
be.
So.
And that's what I mean. Why I appreciate, I guess, throughout the year. You know what I mean? Like throughout the year, it doesn't feel as obligated as it does on that day. And my kids are good, and they're good about that. I think in their own way, they do appreciate what I bring to the table for them. But anyway, so there's this new documentary. Well, first of all, full disclosure here, I am absolutely going to pander to a specific brand at the moment, and I do that on purpose. I think I've mentioned it on one of our shows before, or even to you, but I am all about Dove as far as my like body wash, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I do like the product. I think it smells good and it works. However, fatherhood and manhood, things of that nature, are very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the viewpoint in that and how it's viewed, I guess, is being distorted these days. And I have my own views on what I think it should be, um, and how it should be supported and acknowledged. He's eating a granola bar, Michael. But yeah. But anyways, so I think that I like to highlight when people, or I like to support whenever somebody shares my vision, I guess.
Right.
And so it was a couple years ago. I don't remember the exact date now, but there was a Super Bowl commercial. There's two companies in particular that focused on fatherhood in their Super Bowl commercials. One of them was Toyota. It was a guy bringing his daughter to the airport, and I believe she was going to some sort of military exercise, but he was driving her to the airport to drop her off. And the focal point of the commercial was just the bond and the relationship this man had with his daughter when he was letting her go on the plane and stuff. It was just like a cool little moment. And then the other one was Dove Care for Men. They had a commercial where they were really kind of showing what fathers meant for their kids. And
And what was that?
it was just showing just the bonds, like having fun and playing, and kind of like showing good, positive relationships with father figures. And I appreciated that. So ever since then, I have a Toyota in the driveway, obviously, but I've stuck with Dove since then because I want to support that, right? Like I want
Wow.
to show my appreciation for their viewpoint with my dollars. Um,
Does that mean
well,
I should throw away my Gillette because I don't appreciate what they did?
I don't either, but that's up to you,
But I
man.
do like the razor, man. So
Hey,
I'm not.
man, you choose to show it however you choose to show it. For me personally, I choose to show my support that way for them. And
Yeah.
apparently they're still going at it because Dove recently partnered up with Apple and one of Ron Howard's kids to do a documentary about dads. First and foremost, I went to their website and apparently they do have this whole like fund set up where they're actually trying to advocate legislation to get paternity leave for fathers after the kids are born, to help them not only bond with the baby but also care for the mom and kind of just be a part of that, which I think is awesome. I think it's
I
cool
thought they
that
got that already.
I don't know. I think they're still working on some of it,
Oh, okay.
but so they're actually advocating. They're actually doing things to help change legislation, which I think is awesome. And so it was just further showing that I'm proud to support with my dollars there, essentially. But then I watched the documentary. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it was actually really good. It was a cool, it wasn't like earth breaking or some sort of craziness. It was just showing some fathers talking about what it means to be a dad, talking about just what you and I've shared numerous times. It's just what it was like when we found out they were pregnant, and being there holding them when they're first born and bringing them home, and like that moment. I don't know if you had it, but that moment when you leave the hospital and you're carrying your little baby home, you come inside and you set the carrier down, you're like, now what? Like, what do I do now? Like, what's okay? And like, I think it was Will Smith that was in it, was saying he thought it was ironic that back when his first child was born, he had one of those picture-in-picture TVs when they just came out, and it came with like 1,000-page manual on how to set it up and work with it. But then while he was in the middle of that, his wife's water broke, and they had to go do the birth. And when he came home, he's sitting here looking around like, my TV has 1,000-page manual on how to do this, but I bring home a baby and I have nothing. And he's right, And I think for fatherhood, a lot of us we're winging it. You know what I mean? Like even if we had a father, which I know you did, I didn't really have much of one. I still think we're all in our own way. We're all kind of just winging it, man. We're doing the best we can, and trying to figure out what it means to be a dad. I think we're all trying to take things from our upbringing that we appreciated and instill those in our own kids, while at the
Mm-hmm.
same token tweaking and making changes where we think we can improve. Um, some of his bars are set a little bit higher. I think my bar and what I can improve on was pretty low, but I still try to push. You know what I mean? But what was interesting, and I think we're going to cover a wide array of topics today, but one of the things where I think it was an interesting start was, and I never thought about this question, to be honest with you. And since the thing has aired, I think I kind of agree with somebody's assessment at the end of the documentary. But they were all asked a question in the very beginning, like what does it mean to be a father, basically, like what is fatherhood? And that was a damn good question because it seems like it's such an easy answer, but it's really not, right? Like, and so it was interesting to hear all their different definitions. So I mean, I'm gonna start out by asking you, man, like, what is fatherhood? What does it mean?
Yeah, I don't. It's a tough one, and you know, I'm definitely not an expert in this. What do you call it, arena?
Sure, you are.
As a father, but
You've got two kids that you've managed to get to adulthood.
yeah, it doesn't make me an expert. That just makes me experienced. There's a difference between experience and an expert. But when you asked that, the first thing that came to my mind is, well, if I simply define what my dad is, then that's what it is. Because to me,
Right.
that's what it is. To me,
Right.
my dad is exactly what I look a father to be. He was not only that for me, but I've watched my father be a father to other people. Some of my friends that didn't have dads,
Right.
uh, some of my relatives that didn't have their dad. He's everybody's grandfather as well, so he gets called abuelo by a lot of people that aren't, you know, uh, his grandchildren.
Right.
So if you ask me that question, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say it's a man that is always there if you need him. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care at what time of day it is. To me, a father is somebody that will forever be immediately available. So that's what I try to emulate. That I try to listen like my dad listened, and I try to be available 100% like my dad is available 100%. And if when I'm doing it correctly, I'm not going to emotionally pop off on anything you say
Right.
to me. I'm going to go reserve that, and I'll go talk to Dana about it and emotionally pop off with her, and then I'll come back to you after a while.
Right.
Uh, but but I think that's what a dad is. That symbol of, if you ever need me for anything, to listen, to be present, uh, and if it's something physical,
Right.
then I got you. I'm here.
Yeah, I think I kind of echo that sentiment. The way it was explained at the end, and I just it was so beautifully done. I can't remember, and I'm not even going to try to do it verbatim because I won't do it justice. But it was essentially just saying, just that person that provides that stability and that consistency and that safe place that makes you feel safe, makes you feel loved and respected. And I think consistency really is the key on that one. So yeah, I kind of agree with all that as well. I do my best to do that as well for my kids. I try to. At the end of the day, there's a lot of things that are different between different people, but I think that at the end of the day, I do my best to be there, no matter what happens. I want them to know that when they're, in their old age and they're asked questions about their dad and they look back, I want them to be able to say, my dad was always there.
Right.
Period. No matter what I needed, I might not have always liked it, I might not have always agreed with it, but he was always there
Right.
and ready to help. And that, to me, is probably one of the things I would be most proud of is if my kids are able to say that when they're getting older. Was I was
Right. But
dependable.
right. But I don't think that's unique to you and I
No, I
as
don't think
fathers,
so either.
or to fathers. However, I do think the part of, both of you and I have daughters. And so one thing that is unique to us as fathers, I think, is the example that we show our children what a man is. So whether they like it or not, right? Because and what I mean by that is that, and I just had this discussion with my daughters that I said, it's really difficult to look at they're in a certain generation. So
Right.
what they look in their men that they want to be with is not necessarily the kind of man I am, because I come from a different generation. So they
Right.
have to allow the differences of the generation to be there, while at the same time, there's certain things that are true.
Sure.
A man should, I do want the men with my daughters to be able to provide, to be constantly motivated to give more, to provide more. Now, I'm not saying they should be the sole provider or they should be the only provider or women should
Right.
stay home barefoot and pregnant. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that to have motivation and drive and to be constantly childlike and always looking at the world and says, what can I do now? And
Right.
then grow upon that.
Yeah.
I think that I like to see that in the young men they get with. I also like them to be around men that, like you said, safe.
Right.
I don't want any man that gets with my daughter to run the opposite way while my daughter stands there.
Push her down and run. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I've told them, I tell every young man that comes around my daughters, your job is to die first.
Right.
That's your job. So, regardless of the situation, I don't care if it's an alligator. I don't care. Your job is to die first. My daughter has to come
Right.
home safe. And as
Yeah.
long as you live like that, because that's the way I live with Dana. I live with Dana in a way that I know that no matter what happens, my job is to slow down whatever the hell it is and get to running.
Right. Yeah. I
That
think.
makes sense.
my
And
biggest
that's with
thing,
everything in life. You know what I mean?
yeah, my biggest thing that I try to look for in any male figure that's going to be in my children's lives is just principles. You know, if you can live off some principles, I think the details are negotiable. I think the details can
Yeah.
change, but the principles never do. And like you were saying, the principle of no matter what happens, I'm gonna put her first. That's a principle, man. And as long as that's your guiding principle, everything you're gonna do is gonna be okay. And I think that that's what I look for. You know, and that's the kind of stuff that would give me peace. Is just looking for principles and how they kind of live and how they conduct themselves. And does it equal the principles that I think that they should have, the value system, if you will. And Maynard just commented and said he said he wishes he would have had his dad in his life.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do that show, Trinity. You and Maynard, have Maynard on the show on our
Right.
Dharma Time and talk
Yeah.
about some of his journey with that, because you and him have some similarities
Sure.
in some things, and that has, I think those things
Right.
are valuable to discuss as men. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
No, I agree.
not a lot of men are that open to their own vulnerabilities, and
Right.
I think, and that's the new male, right? That's the new male that you and I
That's what I've been told.
both are, and then we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're okay with that. That part of it, not the Gillette part, but the
Yeah.
vulnerability part.
Well, and I think with Maynard, like when he made that comment just now, I immediately thought to myself, do I wish that my experience with my dad was any different?
Right.
I don't know, right? Like on one hand, my immediate thought is, yeah, of course, I would have loved to have had a dad that was more present, loving, tender, caring, responsible, all those other adjectives. But at the same token, though, my mother did so good of a job of not making me feel like I was lacking anything. I mean, obviously I was to an extent, but she did
Hmm.
such a good job in not making that be an issue, I guess. And on top of all that, I kind of like who I turned out to be, and I don't know if I would be who I am without experiencing everything that I did up to this point. So it's like a weird question for me to answer. Like on one hand, I absolutely see that it could have potentially contributed to my life in a major way, but at the same token, I don't want to take away from anything that I have now. And so it's like a weird thought for me to have.
I think that's because of philosophy.
Yeah.
I think that philosophically, again, you and I are very similar. That no matter what the situation is, regardless of whatever, we could probably go into our life and go, "Well, that's a regrettable incident." In our philosophy, we don't regret anything.
Nope.
So we kind of appreciate and learn to navigate whatever emotions came from that, and appreciate whatever came out of that,
Yeah.
rather than feel like we lost
Yeah.
or didn't have something.
But at face
But that's
value, I would love to have one.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I think of just already, just this week alone. Shoot, early this morning, you know, somebody who I looked at as a son of mine was able to call me and talk to me about some things he's going through and some, some issues and whatnot, and get my insight and just bounce some stuff off me. I didn't have that. I've got friends. I mean, I've got what I feel to be equals, but I never had that father figure that I looked up to and like was my guiding force in my life kind of thing that I was able to just be like, hey, dad, that kind of knew me my whole life. That kind of, I didn't have that, and I've had to just kind of like make it up as I go along. I've had to do my best to make good friends who I can emulate and good friends who have qualities that I like. But so the amount of comfort I think that can come from having a father that you can call on has got to be kind of cool. That's got to be an awesome feeling to have somebody that you can call on and that loves and cares for you and wants the best for you and is able to kind of help guide you. So yeah, at face value, absolutely, I would love to know what that feels like. But like you said, philosophically, I don't really feel like I'm missing out per
Right,
se.
right, right, right.
But
You know what I've been is the predictor. I love the predictor. I like watching my dad and then constantly predicting where I would be at that point in life. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
It's like you what you have is this view into your future, this vision of your future, and what it does is it gives you either a bar to want to be with and alongside, or ooh, I don't want that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So because I don't think you need a great father to be a great father. And what I mean by that is that I've known a lot of men that have become very cool men, very good dads, because of the absence of his father. So by not having the father, they vowed to do things completely differently,
yep,
be it all their kids' ball games, be it all their, be very supportive. And then I've seen the fathers, that had a great father and was at all their ball games. So they chose, I want to do exactly what my father
Right.
did. So realistically, it's not necessary to be where you need to be in your life. And that's why, even though philosophically we say, I like where I'm at. I don't know if I would have been here if not. However, my thought is that yeah, you would have. The
Maybe.
difference is that it would be validated by someone else, and you'd be able to watch that predictor. Like I'm able to
Right.
watch the predictor and see, like, wow, that's how I'm going to look. Well, that's how I'm going to sound. What if I don't want to sound like that?
Well, I have
Whereas where
that.
I look at it, I say, damn, my dad waited till 70-year-olds till he was 70 to put his foot down. I'm doing mine at 50.
Well, I mean,
I'm not waiting till
I posted
70.
a picture not too long ago. My dad, I think he's currently in jail. So, I mean, I
Look
do
just
have a
like
very good, hey, I don't want to be that. And Maynard just said not having a dad in my life has made me a good dad. I would agree with that. I think for
yeah,
me, that's what I did was I know the feeling and the chip on the shoulder and the hurt, trauma, the rage that created early on in my life that I never wanted a kid that I was responsible for to feel those feelings. Period. Not because of me. Like I didn't want to be the cause of hurt and trauma in my kid's life. So I never really wanted kids. But
right.
when I found out that I was having kids, like it's weird, dude. It flipped a switch inside of me that I had no clue existed at all. Like I just from the second from the second I found out that she was pregnant with my daughter, I was on board. I was like, all right, this is it. It's happening. I started immediately working on things that I knew
Yeah.
needed to be worked on. Like I was not
Yeah.
comfortable saying the words "I love you." I was not comfortable being affectionate and things of that nature. The second I found that out, I started practicing saying "I love you" to people because I knew that my little baby girl needed to hear her daddy say he loves her.
Mm.
Period. It didn't matter if I was comfortable with it or not. She needed it, so I'm going to do it.
Right.
And so the second I found out she was pregnant, man, I just immediately started changing. I went to every doctor's appointment. I went to everything. I was at it all. And if anybody who knows me personally knows that my relationship with my ex wasn't the best at the time. But it didn't matter. It wasn't about me and it wasn't about her. It was about my kids. So I made sure that regardless of our personal interactions, I was doing the right thing every single time based upon principles. And I don't regret any of it. I mean, I was there. But yeah, it definitely flipped the switch inside of me for sure. And I
Yeah.
do believe a lot of it has to do with wanting to erase the cycle that I was with. Like, I
Mm.
don't want my kids to have any taste of that whatsoever. I don't want them ever to look back and see any comparisons there whatsoever. And for me, I feel like I will have done my job writing the course, if you will, and
Right.
give them something to improve upon.
Right.
So,
And I just want to match it. I just want to match it. Can
yeah,
I match it? And then there's that piece that like when you say that it flipped the switch. I still remember I was heading out to the backyard to smoke a cigarette. Um, I pulled out my Newport, had it in my mouth. I had the lighter in my hand. I was walking out back. Dana came out of the bathroom and she goes, "Hey," and then she showed me the little thing that said we were having a baby, and it was like that very second. As much as I wanted to go out and have that cigarette a couple seconds earlier,
right,
all of a sudden it was like this. I gotta live. I
yeah,
had never ever lived up to that point in my life. I never have ever lived thinking I gotta live another day.
right.
And all of a sudden, that cigarette in my hand looked like it's trying to rob me of being able to know my
Yeah,
daughters
man.
or sons because I didn't know. I thought I was gonna have a boy, like every Latino male probably thinks I'm gonna have a boy.
Right.
So I was like, oh my god, and I crushed the pack of cigarettes that moment, and it was very weird, very spiritual moment.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden to feel like I'm not living for me anymore. And as much as I love Dana, and I did a lot of things I thought, to be in that relationship and to want to grow with her, it wasn't until having the child that actually made me the switch about I got to live long.
Right.
Now I want to live as long as possible, which is a weird thing. When I think back on it, it still kind of freaks me out that I actually want to live longer, and children did that.
Yeah, I think for me, there were people in my life that were trying to teach me many lessons, both, like interpersonal relationships, friends, my own mom,
Mhm.
and all those lessons fell on deaf ears until the moment I had kids. The second I had kids, it's like every lesson that they were trying to teach me just magically clicked in and I got it. And I was like, things got to change. And so I
Yeah,
definitely started, it made me want to evolve. It just made me want to be better. Like I have a thing actually around my neck that I've worn since the day my daughter was born. and I've added to it since then. But I've got their names on it, and then the big one says, "You made me a better man," and I've had that since they were born, and I've never taken it off. And it's true; they made me a better man. Like I was okay. I think I wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't as driven. I wasn't as focused. I wasn't as compassionate. I was just like probably your average, dude just doing his thing.
Okay.
But the second that they came into my life, I immediately strove to not be more successful, but to be
Mm.
better. And I think that those two are separate things, right? You could be a shitty person and be successful. But for me, it wasn't about being successful. It was just I want to be the best me that I could possibly be for them because I want to
Right.
give them a good example. I want them to feel loved. I want them to feel taken care of. I want them to feel safe. That kind of stuff. And and they actually, yeah, man, like I owe everything to them. They did more for me than I did for them. Right?
Right.
They turned my entire life around. My whole mentality completely switched. They saved me in a
Oh,
sense, right?
yeah.
As much as I'm there for them and I do for them, they'll never understand what they brought to my life ever.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And see, at least you know what it's like to have the boys and the girls.
Yeah,
It, I can only go from having the daughter's perspective, which I know. Uh, I think they saved my life because they made me a lot more vulnerable and a lot more emotionally available
yeah,
inside my own self. Like I would run from that.
yeah,
So it's not that I wasn't emotionally attached younger. It's just that that was perceived as a weakness, and that was
yeah,
perceived as something I didn't want. I didn't want to be hurt. I fought being hurt. So instead,
yeah.
I'd want to be the first to hurt. Or if we're going to hurt each other, then I'm going to hurt you so much harder that you're never going to want to try it again.
Yep,
So that changed dramatically with having a daughter. I all of a sudden became very forgiving
yep,
to everyone and to everything. I think that's a direct result of also having daughters because I knew that, especially my oldest daughter, is being so she doesn't like a lot of what could be stereotypical guy things like the machismo thing.
right.
So she would always challenge that early on, even and so it always kind of made me like, all right. I mean, I didn't think I was being aggressive, but okay. I truly still to this day I struggle with what the definition of aggressive is
Right.
when it comes to my personality. To be honest with you, Trinity. I mean,
Sure.
my wife can tell me all day long that's aggressive, but I'll argue that and fight that. But when a daughter says it, it's like, the hell is she seeing?
Right.
What is aggressive? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I like the fact that having daughters because if it's a problematic thing, then why not review it and fix it? I'm so close to perfect anyway, Trinity, that I gotta look for things to continuously work on. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I would probably second the. I think that having my daughter first was the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I didn't care as much as I thought I was going to care about boy or girl.
You
gotta remember,
didn't really for real?
you got to remember, man, I didn't want kids at all.
I know, but you didn't for real.
I
You really.
didn't. I thought I would.
See, I would have bet that you would have because you're the guy that gets all the stereotypical thing. Because you have an image of toughness, so
Right.
you want to do tough things like
Yeah.
facial hair, tough. Let me get tattoos. That's tough. Let me get a big truck. That's tough. Let me get a motorcycle. That's tough. Let me have a gun. That's tough. Let me have a pit bull. That's tough. So if you would have told me that you wanted a daughter or were okay with that, I would have lost that bet.
Yeah, I remember it was a buddy of mine, Mike Hammond, actually. I used to work with him, and he was with me through this whole process because at my work at the time at the Postal Service, my close friends that I was with, they left. So I was kind of just on my own there, and I had some people I was cool with, but not my tightest friends that I was with. And so him and I would sit down and every break and lunch, he was like with me through that whole process, man. Like philosophically, kind of talking about it, like that aha moment when I realized I'm having kids. And he used to ask me, he's like, "Do you want a boy or do you want a girl?" I'm like, "Man, I don't." It was such a. It was
You
such
didn't
a.
give that. You didn't give that answer that just says as long as they're healthy. You
No,
didn't do that, did
no,
you? Oh,
no.
okay. All right.
But I did want him to be healthy, obviously. Like, and my daughter
There you
wasn't
go. Your
actually.
mom's telling the truth. Your mom outed you.
No, I didn't. Like, I didn't
I
like.
did, and my daughters know it. I thought I thought for sure I better get a boy, or I'm not gonna know how to treat a girl.
Well,
I'm
no,
gonna with
my ego
daughter.
thought that I wanted to have a boy before, like, I didn't want kids at all, and then just the thought of kids says, well, if I do, I want a boy. But when I actually found out that I'm going to have a kid, it was weird. I instantly didn't give a shit anymore. Like I was more
Interesting.
overwhelmed and shocked with the idea that I'm about to have a kid, and I've never wanted kids at all. Like I don't you don't understand. If you thought I was anti-marriage, bro, I did
Oh,
not want kids at all. And so to
yeah.
be told, well, it's happening, whether you want it to or not, it's coming. That freaked me out so much, and it was so overwhelming. The idea of caring if it was a boy or girl was just so far. But I was still just trying to wrap my head around the fact that I'm having a kid. Like what?
Right.
And then I literally didn't think about it, man. When I started hearing a heartbeat, I kind of got into it, man. I really did. It took me a while. It was a struggle at first to just wrap my
Yeah.
head around and just accept the fact that it's happening. But once I
Huh.
accepted that it was happening, and I started going to the appointments, I started seeing the little sonograms, and I started hearing the heartbeats. I got into it, man. I just started getting excited. I was quietly excited. I wasn't outwardly, but inside I didn't want to admit it, but I was kind of excited, looking forward to it. And then when she was born, it was the scariest freaking day of my life, though, man, because once again, I didn't have a dad to talk to about these things, so I was just kind of like winging it. And most of my friends at the time didn't have kids either, so I couldn't live vicariously or whatever. And then when it happened, she was born with choreo, which so she had fluid on her lungs, and so for the first like week or so, she was this little incubator and like hoses and stuff. You couldn't touch them. It scared the shit out of me. Like I'm like, dude, this is my first kid, and it might die. Like for the first time in my life, there's something other than myself that I feel this weird kind of love for, and now you're gonna tell me it might go away? Like what? So it scared the shit out of me at first.
I
But
like that you're saying it.
but
The
that's how I
first
felt
kid,
at the
it
time.
might
I'm
die.
telling you, man.
I
That's
used to call my kid it
I was
at the
so
beginning too. I didn't know how to.
yeah, I was so
All
disconnected from
right.
the whole process, man.
It's
That's what
awesome.
I mean by it. It changed me in such a profound way. It changed me, and there's no way I could ever go back to who I
I'm
was.
I'm very fortunate that I picked the right partner from the beginning, man. That I had kids with the right woman because
Yeah, I can't
that
second that
that
one.
that that made life a lot easier, I think, for me. I mean, that could have easily gone really wrong, and I don't know what I would have done. I mean, obviously, I would have adapted, I'm pretty sure, and done whatever I had to do. But I'm very blessed to have found the right person to have
Right.
my children with, so that they can have what I consider to be, I mean, if not the best mother, I don't know what the best mother looks like. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because she's a damn good mom and very nurturing and very
Oh yeah,
loving
I can see
and
that. Just I mean, she's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
of course.
And so I think that, when you ask me what it is about being a dad, I'm gonna throw that in there. To be honest with you, I'm gonna throw in the fact that I'm so grateful. Uh, and it's not just me, because there's a lot of luck involved by not having babies before we plan to, right? I mean, there's some luck involved, and then there's
Yeah,
some decision involved, and so I'm very. I think that to be a good dad for those young men out there that still have yet to have children, it's be very intentional about who you take that risk with,
yeah,
because that's part of the deal, man, is picking the right combination of partner for you.
yeah.
Even if it's just a partner for a child, but the right partner to help develop these young minds and these young people to be as beautiful as they're going to be. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
didn't.
you have to be very intentional in that. It doesn't have to all be accidental,
I
and it
wasn't.
doesn't have to all be just, you can just, let's see how many kids I can have with how many women I have.
Yeah, I wasn't
I,
that intentional. But I mean, at the end of the day, everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out. Obviously. But no, I do agree that we undervalue that particular thing before it happens, right? Like it never occurred to me that hey, I might have kids with this person. I need to be. It never occurred to me, man. I was just trying to have fun that night,
hmm
so
right.
I think that is definitely true. I think that if that is a good piece of advice, man. It's like, look, dude, just understand that nature does work. So
Yeah.
be aware that
So
if you can't see yourself having a kid with that person, you might want to rethink what you're about to do then, because it can work. And once the baby's born and it's here, it's too late at that point. Like you can't. There's no take backsies.
Well, even before that, for you men out there, the way we've gone in our culture, is that once the seed is planted, you have no more say so.
Yeah,
Um, now you may get say so again if that child ever gets born, but once the seed is planted, until
Yep.
that child is born, you are off the books. I
Yep.
remember Trinity, and I was in a marriage. I'm in a marriage, and when the baby was born, the nurse came in and she goes, "All right, what would you like to name the kid?" And the birth certificate, right? And who's the father? So I start answering the questions, Trinity, because Dana's kind of out of it. They
Right.
just gave her some dope, man. I mean,
Sure.
she's not really.
Sure.
And I think that's why so many kids have weird spellings of their names out there. You don't ask the doped up woman, how
How
to
do you
spell
spell
a name.
something?
But yeah. So anyway, so they start asking her questions, Trinity, and I start answering as the father. I'm the
Right.
dad. And the nurse looks right at me and she goes, "I'm sorry, I'm going to need her to answer." Even though the question
Yep.
was, "Who's the father?" She says, "I'm going to have to get the answer from
Yep.
her. I'm sorry. It's just she's the only one that can answer this question." I never felt so, I don't even know what the word is. I just felt like, whoa,
Yeah.
that is the reality that I've always heard other people talk about, but
Yep.
I never saw it. I never felt it like that. Because from day one, we were a partnership. It's ours, it's ours, it's
Right.
ours, it's ours. Not in the mind of anybody else, brother. Not in the mind of anybody else. It's all theirs
Yep.
until they allow you permission
Yep.
for it to be yours. And that was weird. I don't
Yeah.
like the law being involved in that crap.
Well, I think
That
now's a
was
good time
weird.
to transition to a different focal point on this conversation, and that is about dads and whatnot. And so I'll just jump right into it. In today's climate, everybody's fighting about who's more outraged and who's more offended about different things.
Right, right,
I'm not easily offended, but
right.
I will say the most offended I think I've ever been in my entire life was when I went to go to fight for my parental rights for my kids when my ex and I were no longer in a cohabitating relationship. Her and I kind of made some agreements, and I felt that I would feel better if those agreements were not verbal, but instead put in actual enforceable paper. So when I went to the lawyer to talk to him, I found out because her and I were not married, I had zero rights, none.
Yeah, yeah.
I was only able to see the kids because she just agreed to it at that point. It wasn't until the paternity suit was filed before we established at least a paper trail that proves that I am the father and we can kind of go on. But I've never been more offended in my life that, like, wait a minute, my name is on the birth certificate. I was there for the birth. I've been raising them, and you're telling me I have zero, like nothing. Like, as I had as much rights to them as the dude from down the street, working at the store. Like,
Yeah.
I felt offended, man. I was like, are you serious right now? And so, I did eventually fight and got some rights and made sure that they were implemented. But I was astonished to find that out because we weren't married. I had less than zero rights, basically. And I think it's a travesty, right? I think that we want our fathers to be more involved as a society, but it does appear at times as we stack the odds against them and make it very difficult to assert those rights. And now I understand to an extent that there are some really bad fathers out there who probably shouldn't have any rights. But at the same token, there's a lot of great fathers out there who deserve rights but struggle at getting those rights. And
Those are a lot of bad mothers out there. I mean,
absolutely, oh, of
it's
course,
it's like
of
it's like
course,
Trinity when I talk about bad teachers and I say
yeah,
some teachers
yeah,
really suck, and,
yeah,
and then it's like, oh my God, you're not allowed to put down teachers.
yeah.
Well, guess what? There's a lot of mothers who really suck
There's a
too.
lot of horrible moms out there.
Come on,
Absolutely,
man. I mean, there's just bad. There's just some sucky people out
yeah,
there,
of
all
course.
types. Yeah.
But there was a statement that was in the documentary that I watched that I've said numerous times, and I was so glad that somebody other than me has said it, and I've heard other people as well. But the lady was talking about her husband. He's a very hands-on husband, and he does all these things. And one of her girlfriends were saying, they're like, "Oh, you're so that's so cool that he helps you out like that." And she's like, "He's not helping me. Like, that's not helping. Like, he's helping me is my neighbor watch my kid for 10 minutes while I get some laundry out or whatever. But he's not helping me. He's a parent. He's parenting. Like,
Yeah.
he's a creator like I am. And I agree with that 100%. Like, I don't help out. That's my kid. Like, I'm parenting. And I think that somehow as a society we've locked into parenting as the mother role, not the father
Yep.
role as well. And
Yep.
so I'm torn, right? Like, I'm torn in the sense of I like to see fathers being appreciated for being present, but at the same token, I think there's a fine line between showing appreciation and almost patronizing, I guess. Like, don't look at me like I'm doing something so special because I decided to show up to a parent teacher conference for my kids. Like, yes, I look around, I'm like usually the only father there, maybe one or two other ones. But that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Like, I'm supposed to be there for my kids. I don't I don't think I'm doing anything special, but I'm fully aware. Obviously, a lot of men don't. I get it, but I think that we as maybe we have to start expecting more, right? Like maybe we need to stop expecting fathers to be crappy fathers. Maybe we need to start expecting them, and that kind of it's kind of happening, right? Like I think in today's world, you're almost kind of considered almost like a dork or a loser if you're not involved in your kid's life.
Well,
I
let's
think it's
back up there.
changing.
Yeah, let's back up there for a second, then,
Yeah,
Trinity, and let me ask you some questions in relation to that because
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's changing, and there is that expectation, but I think the expectation that I see changing is that the more you as a man are more like the female, then you're a better man.
yeah.
You know
I think
that
that's
in
bad.
other words, whatever is stereotyped as a man thing, and I'm just saying
Yeah,
stereotypes. So don't Gillette me and send me any damn messages. But there are things that previous generations grew up with as gender roles,
yeah,
and so it appears that all the things that I grew up with as a gender role are now considered like bad things. So the more I play to the gender roles that my wife grew up with, then I'm a better man or a better father. So I think the confusing thing is I remember being a young man, like in my 20s and 30s, and where it really started, right? Where like when you started being told by certain women that you'd open the door for, they go, I don't need you to open the door for me, by the way, I can get my own door.
yeah.
I still remember when a woman said that. I was like, would you? I wasn't. I didn't open the door for you because like I thought you were too weak or like you couldn't open your own door. I was
Right.
doing it out of respect. But I still remember that one female who kind of took it like I was doing it because I was degrading her as a woman,
Right.
and I was like, wow. And I remember from that time point, as a young counselor, being like, wow, this is going to be real difficult for young men because young men don't know what it's really like to be men because now that's being redefined. And so here we are now 15, 20 years later, and we're still redefining it, but it's being redefined
Yeah.
so much that within that whole process, like you say, dads are almost like what children used to be. Dads are to be seen and not heard unless I let you be heard, unless I tell you what you're supposed to say, or unless I agree
Yeah.
with what you're saying. As soon as I don't agree with what you're saying, as soon as I don't agree with your approach, or if I think it's too loud, strong, or masculine,
Aggressive.
if you're mansplaining me or aggressive, then it's no longer appropriate, and I'm going to take my kid, and you're not allowed to have that communication with my child. Those things are concerning to me.
Yeah. No, I
I
agree
don't think I
100%.
don't like the pendulum swinging too far either way.
Yeah.
But I do kind of like some of what we consider to be man things.
Right.
Um, that has nothing to do with sexuality. I'm not homophobic or anti-female if I say they're man things because that has nothing to do with sexuality. That has everything to do with just I kind of like the way we communicate. We do our thing,
Right.
but the roles that we have with each other, Trinity, is
Right.
not the same roles we have with Angel and Dana.
No.
We behave differently and do some different things with them,
Yeah.
hopefully, that we don't do with each other, and we're cool with that.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah. No. I have sat back and watched for years the the public portrayal of the man of the husband or whatever being shown to be this inept person who can't do anything. Don't leave the baby with them because they can't do whatever, or is the baby safe to be left alone? I've seen that for so many years, man, and it's just complete bullshit, right? Like when my babies were born, man, I was there. I did change diapers. I was there. I have those stories. I my little boy, love him to death, man. But in this very room I'm sitting in, there was a changing table behind me, and this is a nice little gross story here, but there's a changing table behind me,
Hmm.
and I heard when I had a daughter, people tell me stories about boys. When you have the little diaper, if you don't touch the little wee wee, it'll pee everywhere, right? So my
Yeah.
focus was, you are not about to pee on me, boy. So when I took the diaper off and I made sure I covered his little wee, so it didn't pee everywhere. But you know what I didn't cover? The other hole. So he had some liquid projectile
Whoa.
diarrhea that shot across the room and hit that wall. Yeah, that was freaking gross, dude.
Whoa, that's just
It was
weird,
gross.
Trinity.
But my
Hey,
point,
Zoe, come here for a sec. Go ahead,
yeah.
finish your point.
But my point is, I have those stories, right? And I was a part of all that. And so
Hmm.
I think for them to show them, uh oh, what happened?
No, I'm gonna finish your point, and then I'll say what I gotta say.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh man, I wanted to hear the rest of what you were gonna say then.
That was pretty much it. I don't
Oh,
like the fact that they're showing fathers and men in general just to be these inept people who can't take care of
right,
kids, who can't
right.
boil water and all this. Dude, I do a lot of cooking in my house. I change diapers. I fed my kids. I got pictures of me bottle feeding them and everything else. So it's a parent thing. It's not a mom
Right.
thing. It's not a dad thing. It's a parent thing. But go
Well,
ahead.
that's kind of what I wanted to answer to actually. That's a perfect segue because, all right, so he's saying that it's a dad thing to to change diapers and do all that feeding and stuff like that. How many diapers of yours did I change in my life?
I don't know, probably none.
That's right. Say hi, baby. All right, now you
Hi.
can go.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, that's my youngest Zoe. Yeah, I was bad at that Trinity. I do have to admit, and this is where all the people can throw shade my way
But that
and
was the
throw
role that
shade
you
my
had
way
at the time, though. That was the
because
role that you guys worked out.
Trini, if you would have saw the way I held my baby, everybody, every person thought I was babysitting when I would. So anybody that I saw like in a store or anything like that, as good as I thought I was doing, Trinity, I thought I was doing good, man. But everybody that saw me holding my babies was like, "Is that your baby?" And I didn't understand why they were thinking that. But it's because I looked terrified. I probably looked terrified, Trinity. I didn't know. All I saw is that neck, how how like
Yeah,
baby
man.
neck,
Yeah,
and I
the heads
heard how
go
you
back.
break the baby's neck.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to
yeah, yeah.
support the head.
I was so worried about that neck breaking all the time, dude. So, however you gave me the baby, I froze that way.
Right,
Like if you gave me the baby and I was like this,
right.
I just stayed in that position.
Sure.
I didn't know how to change positions. And then the bathroom, they were daughters, so I was like so freaked out by that. I was like, I don't want to change them. I said, you got to change them. They're girls. I didn't get it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was like, no. Um, so you do it. Like Dana would leave for like 5 minutes, bro. I'm no lie, like 5 minutes, and I was already calling her like, hey, so where are you at? You coming home? I was afraid
That's
that baby
funny.
would wake up or need anything, and that I would fail. I thought
Right.
I was to kill my child, Trinity. I thought I
Sure.
am going to kill these kids. I don't know how to help them live. And I made a pact with Dana a long time. I said, all right, here's the deal. And you can ask her, man. I said, Dana, you kind of be the main lead up until they're teenagers. In the hard years, teenagers, I got this. I'm good. I can communicate with a teenager, but I don't know how to do all that baby talk with little kids. I'm going to talk to them just like this, but I promise I won't curse. I will not curse. And so that was our deal.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I think,
I,
and that's understandable. I mean, I think that's a role that some people fill. Your guys' dynamic was what it was, and that's okay. But the sentiment that's out there that we're all inept and we can't do it is just bullshit. I got up many because my kids were bottle fed, so I got up many a nights, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to go feed kids. Like I did that. Those are my kids. There was many nights I fell asleep with them on my chest, like laying there with them. I was very involved from day one. And so, yeah, I find it offensive at times when I see us being portrayed as these inept idiots who can't be left alone with them. It's like, really,
that was
dude?
me. That was me, dude. I was that inept idiot.
But you
I
don't
gotta
represent
tell you.
all of manhood. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, no, no,
And
no.
that's what I
Hopefully, I
think.
just represent me. I've done much better since, though,
Sure.
Trinity. But
No,
I
you're
started off
you're 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 really involved with your kids.
I, I started off way rough. But let's. What is Sheila saying? Sheila's saying something about her.
Jayla said, "My earthly father
Put on there.
wasn't." Let me see. Let me drag it off here. She said, "My earthly father was an evil man. He was full of malice. He himself did not have a good childhood, so understandably, so I had to live with so much physical, emotional, psychological, verbal torment and rape from him."
Oh,
I am very sorry to hear that, Jayla. I can relate to some of that. My dad wasn't the best. I think, like Louis said, we might have a show on that with Maynard some other day. But
yeah.
and sadly, those are out there, right? And I think that's why it's so important that we do highlight that there are good men out there doing good things. Not all men are bad. Not all men are inept. Obviously, some are, but like he said, some women are. Like I can think of a few right now in my head that are very public cases who've been out there who have tried to murder their own kids and things of that nature. Like they exist.
Some have.
Yeah,
Some have.
exactly.
You know. What is Richardson saying?
Richard said the family unit is broke. The amount of single parenting is sad. The foundational roles of the mother and father hadn't changed. It's been a forced change because of the lack of the moral obligation. I was always taught the mothers were there for nurturing and the fathers were there for structure and discipline. Very different but distinct roles as parents. I would agree with the principle that he's getting across,
Right.
and in the sense that we as parents all have to be more involved and more present,
Right. Right.
because I do believe that is like I think that is a major problem with where we're at right now in society. Is I don't think enough parents have taken the initiative to be the best parent that they can be. I think they allow their kids to experience and go through things that they probably shouldn't experience and go through, or they're absent. They haven't dealt with their own issues. To me, one of the best gifts I ever gave my kids, and I've given them a lot over the years. I mean, they're alive, so I've managed to keep them alive. Aside from that, I think the best gift I've ever given my kids, and I continue to do this every day, is my own internal peace. The more work I've done on myself to be the best version of me that I can be is the best gift I could possibly give them. Because what that means is my approach to them, whenever they have problems, whenever they have issues, whenever they're scared, whenever they're uncomfortable, I'm not coming from a selfish or judgmental or a harsh place. I'm coming from a healthy, happy, loving place, and so I'm able to treat them with the love and dignity that they deserve. And that was the best gift I've ever given them. Had I not evolved and grown from having them, I would be a horrible, horrible, shitty dad. But because I did grow and because I evolved, I'm able to be what they need to be, and I think that's the best gift anybody can give their children, is the best version of yourself. Because it starts from here, right? Like, you can't fill from an empty cup. You know, no matter how much intentions you have to do the right thing, if you're coming from a fractured perspective, if you're coming from a fractured spiritual, self, then everything you're going to do is going to be tainted by that. And so you have to work inward in order to give them the best that you can. And they deserve that, because at the end of the day, they didn't ask to be born, man. You did this to them. You brought them in, and you said earlier on, and I couldn't agree with you more, and I've said this to so many people. I've had these discussions with my 15-year-old because she's got some friends that are being active in that area. And I keep telling her, I was like, look, man, once you have a kid, it's not about you anymore. It stops being about you the second you have a kid. That doesn't mean that your life stops. That doesn't mean you can't continue to progress and have goals or whatever. But everything you do from that moment forward has to take them in consideration, because you are solely responsible for them now. And everything you do has an impact. And so I think that is the best gift that you can give your kids, is making peace with yourself and growing internally.
I think also is in speaking to your point, Richard, is defining those roles. I think you and your partner can't just simply go into the situation and just think you're just going to naturally wing it. I think that having conversations and communication about the expectations of each other along the way is important. Because I mean, you would do that with anything else. You would do that with something intangible like a business, or you would do that like with a home. You would have a conversation and a discussion about where you're going to put the couch, where you're going to put the TV. So it behooves you that when you're going to spend time with somebody and you're going to take the risk of having children with somebody, then you better be talking about some of the things that mean the most to you, because some things are non-negotiable to you, and it's okay that they're non-negotiable to you. That just might not be the partner for you. Like you said earlier, Trinity, that you didn't want kids. There are people out there that just don't want kids from the get-go. Well, if you really want kids and you get into a relationship with somebody that doesn't want kids, I mean, you got to ask yourself, what are you doing to yourself? Yeah. This person just does not want kids, and they might not change their mind. They might really resent you for having a child later on, and it not working out really great for the child or for you. So there's a lot of situations that I think that we don't talk about early on. I don't think that we do a lot of good planning traditionally as people.
No.
I personally, Dana and I were married, and look, and I'll say it here. I mean, I don't know if she'll be okay with it or not. But
she doesn't watch anyways. We're good.
Exactly. Condom use to this day. And I'm 50 years old and been married for 27 years now? Right. Because it's a responsibility of us as parents to do the right thing, and I don't want her to put any harmful chemical into her body or any medication into her body that may not agree with her, or she may not like it, or may risk anything for her. So I take the initiative and I take the responsibility. And I think when I think dad or I think man, I think it's my responsibility. Nothing can happen without my seed. Nothing. I can stop it all here. And I'm not saying it's only a man's choice or decision or obligation. I'm just saying, but since that's the perspective I come from, since that's what I am, I take that initiative. And so I guard that with everything. The way you just defined of what you think the best thing that you can do for your kids. Well, here's the best thing that I think I did with my kids: responsibility. I showed them that I don't run, I don't quit, and I'm 100% responsible. At the end of the day, you can count on me.
Yep.
Look, you're going to be at a point in this world where you're going to look around, you're going to go, nobody understands me, nobody gets this. I'm here alone. You're going to have a moment like that in life. That's life. You're going to feel like that. Even if you have 5 million people around you that love you and support you, you're going to feel dead alone at some point during this earthly experience. And I just want you to know, I will never, ever, ever not be there. I've told my kids from the day they were born, I'm going to go away from this physical life at some point, but I am never going to die. I will never die. You will always know what I would say. You always know what I would think. You're always going to know what my opinion would be. You're always going to know the words of encouragement I would use at that moment in time, because if you can study me like I know you will, and you'll constantly know what dad will do, what would dad say? What would dad do right now? I will always be there for you. So please allow that to occur, and you will never be alone in your life. And that was the best thing that I think I did with my kids, is try to instill in them that I will never go away. You will never be abandoned, and you will never be alone as long as you have me, and you'll always have me.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, man, and I think that we have similar approaches, and
Yeah,
I consider myself very blessed, to be honest with you, because
yeah,
I have so many people I know that I'm really good friends with that I would consider to be great fathers. Like, I don't have anybody that I know right now that I can think of that is a father that I would consider a friend that I think
mhm,
is just a shitty father. Like, I'm so thankful and blessed that I from an early point when I had my kids, I was surrounded by a bunch of other dudes that thought fatherhood was cool too. You know what I
right,
mean? Like, I didn't have anybody who I felt like was judging or harshly or criticizing stuff. Like, right now, I can think of there's like at least 6 or 7 people that I knew that I was really close with who were all dads, who were all like love being dads, and we're all kind of the same. And so I think I was lucky to kind of gravitate to those circles, man, where it was like it was the cool thing, and that's what I mean by I think it is changing, right? I think it's changing in the sense that there was a point where maybe it wasn't talked about or nobody really discussed it, but it appears anyways, and maybe I'm just running in the wrong circle, I guess, or different circle, but it appears in today's world, if you don't be an active father, if you're not there, then you're kind of a loser, right? It comes off that way from my stance, where I see it's not as accepted anymore if you're just going to not be a part of your kid's life. And that I think is an awesome change. Like, I think that is a fantastic change, and I think it's because of us, right? I think it's us being outspoken, and it's us being like, yeah, being a dad is cool as hell. What are you talking about? Like, we made it
right.
okay to talk about, and so I do believe, like, as peers, we do put pressure on people nowadays as a father to step up and be a part of it. Like, it's no longer something where you just don't talk about it, or you're just that's they're just no. I'll stand up and tell you the hell's your problem, bro. Like, you brought that kid in, step up. And that I'm grateful for, to see that that's changing. I just would like the stigma to change a little bit as far as what, like you said, what's considered male, what's considered female, as far as the roles are concerned. Because I don't think giving my daughter a hug when she skinned her knee and telling her it's going to be okay is a mom role. Like, I think that's a parent role, right? Like, I think that it's our job as parents to fulfill our children's needs and guide them and care for them and love them. We might have different styles, like, right? Like, my wife and I absolutely have different styles. I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely a lot more rough around the edges. There's been many times where one of my kids will like bang their finger. I'm like, you'll be all right. Come on, one of my things I love doing around the house, and I'm sure they're gonna need therapy for this later on as their kids, or as their adults. But I'm always wondering, like, since they were little, they would bang their finger or something like that. And I don't mean anything serious. Like, let's make sure I'm fully disclosing everything. I feel pretty capable of discerning whether or not it's a serious injury or if it's just a little tiny boo boo. So the little tiny boo boos, I would always be like, oh, come here, I'll cut that off for you so you don't have to deal with it. And then, no, no, no. Like, I would chase them around a little bit, like I was pretending I was going to cut their fingers off. And I think that's just funny. It was done to me as a kid, and I remember at the time it scared the shit out of me, but as I got older, I thought it was funny. And it's just to illustrate, like, you'll be fine. It's a boo boo, you're fine. If
Right,
it was really that bad, then let me cut it off then.
right,
And so I have my own style. I don't think Angel's ever once done that. Her claim to fame that I've actually stolen from her is when our kids come complaining about stuff, she breaks into the Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you
Yeah,
want.
I like that.
Yes, I've stolen that from her. That's
Yeah, I've done
awesome.
that.
They'll come up complaining about something, and she'll start singing that song to them. But
Hey, you can't cry at a boo boo at this house, man, because Dana's worse than I am. So on that one, so good
right
luck
on.
with that one.
Yeah, like
She may be nurturing, but man,
yeah,
I mean, unless it was a rusty nail or something jabbed into your heart, she's gonna be like, really,
yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Well, that's one of my famous stories, man. Those little green energy things. I was a kid. I was on my little big wheel, and I thought, for whatever reason, I had this just brilliant idea that I was going to ride my big wheel off of the green energy thing. It didn't go as planned. I did not go forward. I ended up going backwards, and it hit my head, and I had this big, what we called it, a goose egg. And I
Mm,
remember I was a little kid, man. I could have been like 5, 6 years old. I come running in the house, my mom crying, "Oh, it hurt my head." My mom's like, "You'll be fine. Go back out there and play." And at that moment, it was the most devastating thing in my life. And my mom was like, "You're fine. Go back out and play." And then she
exactly.
continued on with her day. And,
Amen.
I bust her balls about that and give her shit. But at the end of the day, she was right. And I'm glad
Yep.
my mom had that mentality. My mom, we were coming from like the Midwest and up in Montana where it was like ranchers and things of that nature. And those are the type of people that cut their finger off, put it in their pocket, finish what they're
Yep.
doing, and then go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. I actually like that mentality of get the job done. It is what it is. Stop whining about little things. I know that's unpopular to say in 2020 at the moment, but that's who I am. That's where I'm at, and I'm doing my best to raise my kids with some semblance of that at least, and they can choose to do with it what they want. But I'm going to try to pass along at least some of that for them. You
Right.
know.
Yeah,
But
I got cool dad moments from stuff like that. Like when my
yeah,
my youngest that you just saw, Zoe, when she had there was a wire, a braces wire, like that was messed up way in the back, and we were on vacation. She let me get a pliers and go in there, and she's like what 6, 7 years old, man. But she's a tough girl, man. She let me get in there with pliers and pull it out. There was a time where there was a tooth that was loose. She let me grab that thing and yank it right out of her mouth.
that's awesome.
When she wanted a piercing in the ear, she let me do the piercing. There's I kind of like some of those things that
Yeah,
she knows that pain ain't nothing but a thing. Get through it. And if this guy does it, meaning me, like she won't give that due to her mom because like Dana will like be thinking about it, and then like Dana can make combing your hair painful. You know what I mean? Like the knots. whereas for some reason I know how to hold the hair from the top, and
yeah,
I so they would come to me for that. You know what I mean?
right.
So, but they knew how to be okay with some of that, and they knew they could be safe or do something painful with me because I was going to at least do it least less painful than it could be.
Right.
Bye, baby, leaving.
Well, I got both my mother and my sister on the comments today. And my daughter was on earlier. I don't know if she still is or not, but even my sister says, "Mom always says life isn't fair." That's how I was
Amen.
raised. We would
Amen.
complain. My mom's like, "Yeah, it ain't fair. You'll be all right." Like,
Yeah.
at the time, it was like, "What the hell?" But looking back, yeah, she was right.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that kind of mentality, man. And as a father, that's what I think I bring to the table is that sense of reality, if you will.
Yeah.
And I take my job seriously, man. I love being a father. I really do.
Also, I think one important thing that I think we need to mention, and because it's timely, I also didn't teach my kid to be angry at this world. I never taught them that these are the best years of your life and the rest of life sucks. That the only good years of your life are childhood years. That's bullshit. I tell them, look at my parents. Those are the best years of your life.
Right.
Being a
The golden
grandparent,
years.
yeah, that's the best years of your life. You don't give a damn. You can even urinate on yourself and be cool with a parent. You
Yeah.
know, so as a grandparent, that's the best years of your life. I never told them to be angry about that they're half white, half Latino, to be angry about it. I never taught them that this world hates you, that this culture hates you, that the America hates you. I never taught them to be victims. I never taught them to be minority minded. And I'm just saying that you want to do that with your kids, you do that with your
Sure.
kids. I'm just saying what I do with my kids because I didn't want my kids to be angry with the systems. I
Right.
wanted them to respect the systems. Don't expect them to change by you yelling at them and confronting them. How you change, baby girls, is you get within them. You want to change? You get in the system and you change it from the inside.
Yep.
But don't ever just yell, bark, and get upset and do all that stuff. The only thing that's going to happen to you is you're going to end up dealing with the consequences of it like daddy used to.
Right.
Daddy couldn't make real effective changes until Daddy got inside the system, and now they pay me to go into that system and change the system from the inside. That's the way
Well,
you do it. So I'm glad I did that, because I could have easily, because of where I was mentally and emotionally as a young man,
right.
if I would have kept in that time frame, and this is going back to your earlier point of you changing from the inside and finding the peace on the inside. Since I found the peace on the inside, and I grew before I had kids. I mean, me and Dana, we didn't have kids for our first 10 years together on purpose. We
Right.
wanted to grow together and experience life together
It's
first.
awesome.
Grow up with each other first, then have children, and then have life with them. And I'm glad we did that, because I was emotionally or maturely, I was mature enough
Right.
by that point in time to not be so angry, and so I didn't project any of the anger that I experienced early on onto them, and for that I'm extremely grateful.
Yeah, and I guess to keep it with current stuff. Well, first and foremost, we're running over today, and whatever, that's fine. We're dads, and we love talking about our kids, so this is gonna be a longer show today. No, the other thing that happened actually this week that I think, another thing you and I have in common, and I don't think it's just an us thing, but we just so happen to be here, and that is, I always look for teaching moments. Like, I don't look for punishment per se. I look for teaching moments. Like, because I think punishment should be corrective in nature, not punitive, right? Like, I'm not trying to punish you for the sake of punishing. I'm going to correct it. And
Yeah.
so, if I could use this moment to teach you something to where you learn, that's what I'm going to do. And an example. Now, full disclosure, you and I are both independents. I'm not red. I'm not blue. I think they're both, crazy in certain instances and both right in certain instances. And then our current president, Trump. I've never met the guy. I don't have anything against him personally, and that's kind of where I'm going to leave that statement. My daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, who's going to be 11 soon, sent me a text yesterday, and in the text was a TikTok video, and the TikTok video had a group of parents and kids at what looked to be like a backyard pool party or barbecue, and they're all banging on a piñata, and the parents are cheering them on. And on the piñata, I noticed they had a picture of Donald Trump on the piñata, and they were encouraging him to beat this piñata, and they were laughing about it and stuff. My daughter sent that to me, and so I felt that was a teaching moment, right? And this is why I preface this all by saying red or blue. I don't care if you're red or blue. I think things are inappropriate regardless, right? And bullying is bullying and things of that nature. So I told my baby, I was like, look, baby, like, I don't think that's funny. Like that. And she was, oh, it's just a joke. I was like, well, that's not a funny joke. And I asked her, I was like, they're beating something with somebody's picture on there. Like, how would you feel if they had daddy's picture on there and they were beating it? Like, would you like that? And she was like, well, no. I was like, exactly. Like, you don't. They're doing that strictly because they don't agree with somebody's opinion. None of those people at that place have ever met this man in person. He's never wronged them personally, ever. And so really what they're advocating here is, I don't agree with you, so therefore I'm going to beat you. Last I checked, that's unacceptable and that's bullying. I don't care who it is. Bullying is bullying. And so I used that as a teaching moment for my daughter to say, look, like, I know it's acceptable right now apparently in society to completely trash on somebody who doesn't share your particular view on something. But in this house, I'm not going to sign off on that. No. They're allowed to disagree with you. I disagree with a lot of things that comes out of his mouth. But that doesn't mean I hate this person. It doesn't mean I'm going to advocate completely ridiculing. He's still the president. And there's certain things I do agree with him on, but I was just trying to get my daughter to understand, even at 10, like, that's not cool, man. Because the thing that people don't understand, and I've been saying this for the longest time, it's always fun in games when you're on the winning side, right? There's a phrase that my buddy said a long time ago, is it's never fun when the rabbit has the gun, right? Like, it's fun to go hunting and stuff as long as you have the gun and you're chasing the rabbit. But the second that rabbit gets a gun, it's not so much fun anymore. And so what that is, and that's, for me, as a father, that's what I'm bringing to the table, is teaching my kids these principles. Right. And that is, it's only funny because, once again, it was Donald Trump's picture on there, and, so many people think that's okay. But what if it was your dad or your mom, and everybody was doing it, and they all thought it was okay because they had the numbers on their side, and you were the one that was, left out? Would it feel as good? Probably not. So if it doesn't feel good for you, what makes you think it feels good for any of them? Because people tend to forget he's in a public office, yes, but he's still a human being. He still has children. I mean, at the end of the day, those are still family bonds. Like, these people are watching their dad be completely just lambasted by everybody. Like, that's your father. That's the person who raised you. Like, I can't imagine right now what it would be like to see an entire world trashing my mother right now because of views that she has. And yes, they can argue, well, you're in public office. Since when did your job make it okay for all of us to act uncivil and be a complete asshole to somebody? Like, I was raised differently than that. My mom, who's watching this, raised me to respect you regardless. I can disagree with you, but it doesn't mean I have to disrespect you and jump all over you. So, for me as a father, that is one of my most important things, is look for teaching moments and build principles. And the principle that I was teaching in this moment was agree to disagree. It's okay for somebody to disagree with you and have a different perspective, but that doesn't mean you then take it to that next level and start advocating violence and things of that nature.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trinity. That's a good teaching, and I'm glad you did what you did. And I wish more people would do that. I wish more people would, you can have your political views, you can have your thoughts, but remember, there's children watching. And so some of you are teaching your kids that it's okay to defy authority in a certain way that you would never let them do that in your home. You would never let them defy your authority in your home the way you're watching them do it. Can you imagine that it'd be okay right now for a child to not like what you said to the point where you thought it was okay for them to take a bat and break your television set? Say, well, this is
what else am I going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to riot in my own house, and I'm going to bust my television set, or this is my room. I'm going to occupy it, and you can't come in here, and I'm going to do with it what I want. I mean, listen, don't put your children in a situation where you're teaching them one thing on the outside, and then you treat them differently in your home, with the hypocrisy.
Yep.
Because what you're setting up your child to do is to go out there and accidentally get themselves in a bad situation. You're not teaching them correctly. A matter of fact, I'm going to give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. When I was a consultant for a treatment program that got 3 drug courts, right? So we would go to drug court, and some of these people didn't have, moms and dads that taught them how to dress in court or how to address the judge in court properly. And the reason I say that is because there's some kissing ass involved. There's some things that you have to do.
Yes, sir.
To get
no, sir.
You want. And so I would tell them, listen, man, anytime I got in front of one of these authority figures, that's when, however you walk, even though I kind of walk with like a little bit of a movement, that's not where you walk with any kind of movement or any kind of strut. You kind of walk kind of dorky. You gotta think, I'm gonna walk dorky. Yep. And then when you dress, this is not the time to dress how you would dress to impress, or to look cool. This is when you want to dress kind of dorky. Dress up. Wear your Sunday best, as it's called, right? And when you address that judge, you answer the questions fully, and you don't give excuses. You just answer and you say, yes, Your Honor, no, Your Honor. Because if you do that, stand when you're supposed to stand, sit when you're supposed to sit. Don't take the hat off when you go into court. Don't have earbuds in. Do not get on the phone while you're in court. If you could teach your children how to behave properly in court, a lot of our children that go to court wouldn't get some of the results that they get in the court. I saw people get negative results in the court, not because they're crime, because they were disrespecting that judge. And I would sit there and I would tell you, right when I was like, they're not going to get that chance. Here it goes. I don't care how good of an attorney you got. You just, the way you're acting, this ain't going to work for you.
Yep.
And then boom, 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 boom. And all the ones that were kissing ass properly.
Absolutely. Play the game, man.
It's the real life. Just a courtroom. Guess what? That's your household. You hypocritical adult. That's your household. If somebody came into your house and disrespected you in your house, you'd go, oh no, this is my house. You don't disrespect me in my house. You don't at my house. And this is what I feed you this way. You would have all kinds of rules like that in your house. But all of a sudden you come out to other people's places and other places in the community, and you think it's okay to disrespect, deface, damage, and do all that stuff. No. If you want to teach your kids something, here's what you do. You look at them and go, here, mommy and daddy are hypocrites. Yes, we are. And so when I show you signs of hypocrisy, bring it to my attention. Let's have a conversation about it. Because maybe there's a teachable moment there. Remember, Trinity, when I busted my window, what is that little mirror? The side mirror in my car? Yeah. And I told you I wanted to go home and lie because I was looking at an email and I'm on the freeway, and I hit a Bob's barricade on the freeway. Bang! Almost killed me. It was freaky, man. It was like a loud bang. Busted the side mirror right off my car. I so wanted to lie to everyone in my house. I wanted to lie to my daughters. I wanted to lie to my wife and just say, some big old whatever story. Instead, I said, teachable moment. Not just teachable moment for them, but teachable moment for me. I said, Daddy was flawed. And these are not little kids. They were already like teenagers. And I said, I was reading an email. Please be careful when you're out there. I don't listen sometimes too. I was reading an email. I hit the Bob's Barricade. I could have killed myself. And for what? For an email? Because I just, it couldn't wait until I got home. I said, that's what happened. So I had to be honest with it. But I like that we can have conversations about hypocrisy in my household. So that time, sometimes I can explain to them why it exists or what my thoughts are. And if they disagree, they disagree. But at least it's a conversation. And everything in this world is about communication and discussion. And so, because some days I'm right, some days I'm wrong. Some days they're going to be right and they're going to be wrong. But nobody's ever 100% right all the time and 100% wrong all the time. And so that is why we have to have conversations about that. And that's why you have to teach your kids how to behave properly out there, so they don't get shot, so they don't get hurt, so they don't get anything. I mean, did you not teach your kids how to get pulled over properly? I did. The first thing I thought about when I saw them discussing police brutality on television, I said, okay, Zoe, and her and her boyfriend, I sat them down. I said, all right, here's the deal. When you get pulled over, I don't think I ever taught you this, so I'm going to teach you how to get pulled over properly. Hands stay on the wheel until whatever they ask you to do, you just keep your hands on the wheel. Make sure the car's turned off, make sure that window's down, and keep your hands on that wheel. And you answer. I don't care if they're a jerk to you or whatever, because I've been mouthy to a cop before and it didn't work out well. So you just say yes or no, sir. We can always work out whatever later. But the key is we got to have you safe. So just keep your hands on the wheel and just answer. These are things that I think we have to answer, just like with teachers. You don't like what the teacher has to say, don't just start popping off at the teacher. My daughter has told my teacher, I'm going to call my dad on you. I'm like, don't do that. You may call your dad on your teacher, but don't tell the teacher that. You simply go, yes, sir. Afterwards, we'll have a conversation about it. But you do not defy authority in the face. They're always going to win right there and then. So those are the things that are missing, Dad. And, so if we're going to have a show on fathers, it's also, hey, dads, don't give all your pains of life and pains of the world onto your kids, and your fears of the world and fears of life onto your kids. Let them have their own experiences growing up. Maybe some of the things that you experienced aren't necessarily their experiences.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to do. My best is to do the right thing, right, and do the next right thing, and teach my kids the very same thing. I had a very similar situation where my daughter was having an experience at school, and it was actually quite an issue in this house. Something took place. I won't go into too much detail, but something took place, and before I called the teacher, I specifically said, "I was like, look, man, I don't mind going to bat for you. I really don't. But I need to know that this is legitimately on him and not on you. I need you to give me all the information. Otherwise, don't have me looking like an asshole up here talking to the teacher. Like, don't do that." And so I called the chief. Swore to me up and down that that's not what it was. When I called the teacher and I started bringing some of these things up, he had some very interesting counterpoints that were not mentioned to me, and I had to eat shit. As much as I felt justified and vindicated, it didn't matter. Because he had the authority and he had specific things set out, and she neglected to live up to certain expectations that he had. So at the end of the day, as much as emotionally I was with my daughter, I couldn't. And I had to be like, you know what? You're right. I'll make sure moving forward that's corrected. And then I got on the phone with her right afterwards. I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me this? Oh, well, I was like, well, that's on you. You earned it because he gave you an alternate and you didn't take it. Well, that's on you. Like, it wasn't his way or the highway. He gave you an alternate, but you didn't agree with it, didn't want to do it. So in that sense, some people might say I wasn't backing my kids, but I was. I was backing my kids for the long term, not the short term.
Right.
In long term, I need them to know it doesn't matter who you are. There's still right and wrong. There's still the best way to handle things. And if you don't handle it the right way, I'm going to call you out on it. I still love you. I'm still here for you. But I'm going to tell you when you're screwing up. And you did.
Yeah.
It's funny. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's funny that you say that. Because my mother would punish me at home, but at the school, I don't care what they said I did. They should have never called her. Because she came in, her little 4-foot self came into that place, and she wiped them all clean. I would get in trouble at home because I'm still suspended or whatever, right? But she always would defend me in their face. I remember when they said, he's smoking marijuana. Look at this. We have it on video. And she goes, "Is that you smoking marijuana?" I go, "No, Mom, I don't smoke marijuana." She goes, "My son said he doesn't smoke marijuana." I loved it, man. I was like, so I think that's also a sign of the times as well, though, right? Sure. That's we now know better. Sure. Than those days. But I like what you did in that respect because I've been called to the school to deal with the situation that my daughter gave me, and I did like exactly what you guys say. Man, please give me all the information. I'll go and fight for you. This dude's wrong.
Yeah, if they're
He's
wrong,
gonna
I'll
know.
fight till tooth and nail. I'll
Yeah,
be the worst
yeah,
enemy
you
they've
know,
ever
you
seen in
know,
their lives.
you
But
know.
if they're not, if they're not legitimately wrong, and you're wrong here, don't have me up there trying to fight a losing battle, man. Like that's just not cool.
Yeah, here's my final thoughts on fatherhood and motherhood, of how I've always believed it to be, and it may have changed, but here's how I've always believed it to be, and I'm just going to put it in some because I think we've already covered enough
Yeah,
things that we can
we're
talk
running
about.
out of
But
time anyways too.
yeah, here's what I would say about it. No matter what, if you're a person out there, and I'm going to go on that, Richard Coleman says, why do you have your, teach them not to go to court in the first place.
Okay,
I
I'm
agree
gonna
with
put
you.
you as the.
And
This is
what's
your
up,
wrap
Leo?
up. This is your wrap
Yeah,
up, sir.
this is my wrap up. It's a simple wrap up. You know, mothers typically, if you do something wrong, I mean, you can chop people up in little pieces and bury them in your backyard, and mom's always going to come to prison and give you commissary money. That's the way it is. She's always going to visit you in the prison. Dads, on the other hand, they'll just say, idiot, and then they won't come to jail. But it doesn't mean they love you any less. They just probably won't enable that like that. They won't let you see that. But here's what I'm going to say about fatherhood, man. I appreciate that we're in a time where fathers have uh, have had to learn that their role is much bigger than what it has been in the past. And that's what I want to make sure is put across. It's a bigger role than it was in the past, not a wrong role. Unfortunately, in 2020, a lot of what we've seen, what a father was, or how I was raised to believe what a father is now being called wrong instead of just no. It's just evolved bigger. So not only am I there to say, shake it off, kid, it's shake it off, kid, unless my kid can't handle that. And then I need to find a way to communicate, shake it off differently. I'm still saying shake it off. But I have to learn how to communicate that for that child. That child may not always respond the same way that I responded. So the words that my dad used to me may not always be as effective for my children because they're in 2020, right? They're in a different age group. However, it doesn't say that my machismo or my manliness was wrong. It just means that we have to figure out how to communicate it differently. And that's what I do like about evolution and progress. For anyone out there, though, wanting a man to be or not wanting to define what a father is at all and being like, oh, a woman can be a father, a father, a man can be a mother and all that stuff. I don't know about all that. That's way too complicated for me. All I know is that I made some right decisions in my life and I found the right partner, and I'm grateful for that. That we had children together, we're a partner together, and when a good dad knows when to hand off the ball to the mother, and a good mother knows when to hand off the ball to a father. And so no matter where you're at in your situation, find a partner to be in it with, because it's a lot easier with a partner than single. Hats off to all the single moms out there, hands off to all the single dads out there, because that, my friend, seems to be like the most difficult role out there, to be a single parent, the only parent, and there you don't have the other side. I've always been blessed, I've always been fortunate, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Those of you that are doing it all by yourself, I don't envy that whatsoever, man. I have nothing how to help you on that.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I grew up in that household of a single mom, and so I saw firsthand how difficult it can be, and how rewarding it can be as well. I think my mother might question the rewards there a little bit, but who knows? Yeah, man, I struggle right now because there's so many things I want to say, but I will just try to summarize very quickly in just a small briefness here, and that is, fatherhood is important. To downplay it and say it's not as important, I think is not doing it justice. I'm not going to say it's any more or less important than a motherhood. I think it's equal because we both bring different things to the table, and I think that we have to be aware of that, and we can't diminish the father's role in what they do. And for those of you who are fathers out there, the best advice I can give you, man, is embrace it. Embrace every minute of it, love it, show your vulnerabilities, grow as much as you can. You owe it to your kids to do that, and just be present, man. Really, just embrace the hell out of it, because it will be the most rewarding, awesome, amazing thing that you've ever experienced in your entire life if you let it. If you embrace it, if you run with it, it'll change you in the most profound way that you'll never understand until it happens. And something also tells me that if you do avoid it and run from it, it'll also hurt you and damage you in ways that you probably never imagined either. Because at some point in your life, you will grow up and you will look back and ask yourself, why didn't I? So don't be that person. Embrace it, love every minute of it, be there for them. Don't get caught up in who's supposed to do what, male, female, mom, dad, whatever. Just do the best you that you can be, and I think you'll be just fine. So I think we're gonna stick around a little bit here for just a couple minutes afterwards. So if you guys want to stick around, but in the meantime, I'm gonna run the outro. So after you guys watch this, now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.